So one last thing I want to mention in this episode that I've mentioned before, but I think it bears underlying because it's what makes Washington a unique historical figure, and that's the Cincinnatus aspect of letting go of leadership and when to let go. Beyond any military strategy, beyond inspiring troops through hardship and difficulty, which we have many military accounts of commanders doing the same in very hard circumstances, the quality of being able to let go in a way contradicted Washington's persistence, and largely for that reason, it's even more remarkable. Rarely will you have someone who's highly persistent and will keep moving along in terribly hard difficulties and yet give up power when they realize it's time. Take Theodore Roosevelt, who was highly persistent, but then wanted to run in a third party with the Bull Moose ticket. And that's even more remarkable considering that Washington served in the age of monarchs in the 18th century. Washington lived when royal rule was shaken, but leaders who were able to seize power, like Napoleon Bonaparte, who declared himself emperor for life, and it basically took a world war to get him out of power, was someone who didn't know when to cede power. So when Washington returned his commission to Congress, it was something new, and it was also new when at the end of his second presidential term, he announced he would not run a third time. This explains a turn of rhetoric that appears in Washington's correspondence time and time again. When Washington takes the attention and the adulation that comes to him, he turns it back to his audience. He does this to remind himself that he is a temporary leader of equals. In his farewell address, he starts off by saying, "My friends and fellow citizens," and goes on to say that he has succeeded as president only because of the help the people gave him during his administration. He's not just rattling off all the things that he did personally during his administration, but what his audience did. And we also see it in the last message he wrote as the commander-in-chief, when he said that the future happiness of America would depend on the people themselves, that their government was a good government, but that survival was up to them. So this whole episode sounds like I'm praising him to the heavens, but due to many contemporaries talking about what a singular figure Washington was, and due to him doing things that few historical figures do, of relinquishing power when he had the opportunity to do so, it's kind of hard not to do that. And just to close this off, here's something from Thomas Jefferson, where he argued that Washington's character in having the determination to lead and to continue in perseverance through difficult circumstances, but relinquishing power when he saw it was no longer for the good of those around him. Jefferson thinks that Washington's character probably prevented the American Revolution from subverting the liberty it sought to establish. That the revolution didn't consume itself in the way that the French Revolution did, for example. Well, that's all I have for today. There's probably a million other things that could be said, but I think this is a good stopping point. As always, I want to thank the Knowlton's Rangers, especially our spy masters, Bill Ivey, Joyce Normant, Tyler from Colorado, Josh Reddick, Baron Fraser, Chris from Maine, Carl from Norway, Moondoggy from Ohio, Rick Knowlton, Vic and Irene, Mike from New York, Michelle, and Marlene. I'll explain what that is in a second. If you like the show and want to help it grow, there are 4 easy ways for you to do it. 1, like and subscribe to the show on the podcast player of your choice. This helps spread the word about the show. 2, join our Facebook group. Here we can keep the discussion going about new episodes, and you can talk about what you like and didn't like. And you can find this group if you just search for History Unplugged on Facebook. 3, we have an online store with t-shirts, phone covers, and other accessories featuring awesomely bad history puns that were crowdsourced by you, the audience. And you can find that if you go to tpublic, public.com and look for History Unplugged, or you just go to historyonthenet.com and look for our store there. 4, and this is really the best way to dive deep with History Unplugged, and that's to become one of the Knowlton's Rangers. If you know your American history, you know the Knowlton's Rangers were an elite spy and reconnaissance group in the American Revolutionary War, but it's also the name of the membership program of History Unplugged. You can join at 3 levels. If you join at the level of Scout, you can hear all the episodes of History Unplugged completely ad-free and get early access to new episodes, at least a week early. If you join at the Intelligence Officer level, you get special bonus episodes, like a 10-part series on the World War II hero Audie Murphy, a multi-part series called Ottoman Lives about different people in the Ottoman Empire, and a series called Rendezvous with Death that looks at biographical profiles of Americans who went to fight in World War I before America entered the war. The last level is Spy Master, where you get all that stuff, but you also get 3 hardcover history books, Forging a President, How the Wild West Created Teddy Roosevelt, Race to the Top of the World, Richard Byrd and the First Flight to the North Pole, and The Last Fighter Pilot, the true story of the final combat mission of World War II. Another bonus is, you can choose a history topic for me to focus on for an entire episode that can go up to an hour, and I'll answer whatever question you have for me, and you get a shout out at the end of each episode. If you want to learn how to become a member of the Knowlton's Rangers, go to patreon.com/unplugged. That's patreon.com/unplugged. All right, well, that is all for my spiel. Thanks for listening to the History Unplugged podcast, from ancient Greece to the Cold War and everything else in between. See you next time.